The 14th of July, 1899, Volume 2. Jesus cannot leave one who loves him. These days, my adorable Jesus continues to make himself seen very few times. His visit is like a flash. When one would want to keep on looking, it is already gone. And if sometimes he stays for a little while, it is almost always in silence. Other times he says something, but the moment he goes away, he seems to withdraw that word, together with the light that comes to me from his word, so much so that afterwards I no longer remember anything of what he said. My mind remains in the same confusion as before. What a miserable state! My dear Jesus, have pity on this misery. Continue to make use of your mercy. So, in order not to be too long saying what happened to me day by day, I will say now, all at once, a few words he told me in these past days. I remember that after I had shed most bitter tears, Jesus made himself seen, and since I lamented to him that he had left me, Jesus called many angels and saints to himself, and turning to them, he said, "Listen to what she says, that I have left her. Tell her a little. Can I leave those who love me? She has loved me. How can I leave her?" The saints were in agreement with the Lord, and I remained more humiliated and confused than before. Another time, after I said to him, "In the end, you will end up leaving me completely," Jesus said to me, "Daughter, I cannot leave you. And as a pledge of this, I have placed my sufferings in you." Then while I was occupied with this thought, "How is it, Lord, that you have permitted the coming of the confessor? Everything could have passed between me and you." In one instant, I found myself outside of myself, lying on a cross, but there was no one who could nail me to it. I began to pray the Lord to come to crucify me himself, and Jesus came and told me, "See how necessary it is for the priest to be in the middle of my works, and this is just help to complete the crucifixion. Indeed, without anybody else, you cannot crucify yourself by yourself. It always takes the help of others." End of the reading. The 14th of July, 1900, Volume 3, the decree of chastisements is signed. It seems I have spent a few days without being immersed in the lethargy of sleep, and together with blessed Jesus a little bit, giving a little refreshment to each other. But how I fear that he may plunge me again into that sleep so profound. Then this morning, after he refreshed me with milk that flowed from his mouth by pouring it into me, and I refreshed him by removing the crown of thorns from his head to drive it onto mine, all afflicted, he told me, "My daughter, the decree of chastisements is signed. There is nothing left but to decide the time of the execution." End of the reading. The 14th of July, 1904, Volume 6. Life is a continuous consummation. My days are becoming more and more sorrowful because of the almost continuous privations of my adorable Jesus. I myself do not know why I feel my soul and also my body being devoured by this separation. What a consuming torment! My only and sole comfort is the will of God, because if I have lost everything, and also Jesus, this holy and most sweet will of God alone is in my power. Also, feeling that my body too is being devoured, I flatter myself that it will not take too long for it to melt, because I see that I feel it succumb, and therefore I hope that one day or another the Lord may call me to himself and end this hard separation. Then this morning, after much struggling, oh how much, he came for just a little and told me, "My daughter, life is a continuous consummation. Some consume it for pleasure, some for creatures, some for sinning, others for interests. some for whims. There are many kinds of consummation. Now, one who forms this consummation all in God can say with all certainty, Lord, my life has been consumed with love for you, and I have not only consumed myself, but I have died for love of you alone. Therefore, if you feel yourself being consumed continuously because of my separation, you can say that you are dying continuously in me, and that you suffer many deaths for love of me. And if you consume your being for me, as great as the consummation of yourself is, so much do you acquire of the divine within yourself. End of the reading. The 14th of July, 1907, Volume 8. Everything in the soul must be love. Continuing in my usual state, Blessed Jesus came for a little while, and without thinking I asked, Lord, yesterday I went to confession. If I had died, since confession remits sins, would you not have brought me straight to heaven? And he, my daughter, it is true that confession remits sins, but the surest and most certain thing to be exempt from purgatory is love. Love must be the predominant passion in the soul. Love, her thought, her word, her movements, everything must be enveloped by this love. In this way, finding her all love, the uncreated love absorbs the created love within itself. In fact, purgatory does nothing but fill the voids of love that are present in the soul. And once it has filled these voids, it sends her to heaven. But if these voids are not there, it is not something that belongs to purgatory. End of the reading. The 14th of July, 1909, Volume 9. God alone can infuse peace in the soul. I have gone through a most bitter time because of the privation of Blessed Jesus. At most, he would make himself seem like a shadow and lightning, and sometimes even the lightning seemed to be running away. My mind was troubled by this thought. How cruelly he left me. Jesus is so good. Maybe it wasn't him who used to come. His goodness would not have done this to me. Who knows whether it was the devil or my fantasy or dreams? But my inmost soul did not want to hear this. It wanted to remain at peace and seemed to be annoyed by everything. It would penetrate more and more into the will of God. It would hide in it, falling into a profound sleep in His holy will, and there is no way for it to wake up. It seems that good Jesus encloses it so much in His will that He does not allow one to find even the door in order to knock and let it hear that Jesus has left it. And so it sleeps and remains at peace. Receiving no answer, the mind says to itself, only one who should take the bile? I too want to become calm and do the will of God. Whatever comes, let it come, as long as I do His holy will. This is my present state. Now, this morning, as I was thinking of what I said above, good Jesus told me, my daughter, if these were fantasies, dreams, demons, they would not have so much strength as to make you possess the halo of peace, and not for one day, but for as many as 25 years. No one could have made that aura of sweet peace breeze inside and outside of you. Only the one who is all peace. And if a breath of disturbance should surprise him, he would cease to be God. His majesty would be obfuscated, his greatness shrunk, his power weakened. In sum, the whole of the divine being would receive a shake. The one who possesses you and whom you possess is over you. He watches over you continuously for any breath of disturbance. Remember that in all of my comings, I have always corrected you if there was a breath of disturbance in you, and nothing would displease me more than not seeing you in perfect peace, and only then would I disappear from you, when I could see you all peaceful again. fantasy, dreams, and much less the devil do not have this virtue, and even less can they give it to others. Therefore, calm yourself and do not be ungrateful to me. End of the reading. The 14th of July, 1921, Volume 13. Just as the sun forms the life of all nature, the divine will forms the life of the souls. My will was swimming in the eternal volition, and an incomprehensible light made me understand and told me, my daughter, it happens to one who lives in my will, as to the earth exposed to the sun. The sun, king of all creation, dwells above all, and the whole of nature seems to be begging the sun for that which forms its life, its beauty, its fecundity. The flower begs the sun for its beauty, its colour, its fragrance. And as it blooms and opens out, it opens its mouth to receive from the sun the heat and the light in order to acquire colour, fragrance, and to form its life. The plants beg the sun for maturity, sweetness, and flavour. All things beg their life from the sun. My will is more than sun. As the soul enters into its burning rays, she receives life. And as she keeps repeating her acts in my volition, she receives now my beauty, now my sweetness and fecundity, now my goodness and sanctity. So each time she enters the rays of my will, she receives many more divine qualities. Oh, how many different beauties, how much liveliness of colours, how many fragrances she acquires. If these souls could be seen by the other creatures, they would form their paradise on earth. So great is their beauty. They are my reflectors, my true images. End of the reading. The 14th of July, 1922, Volume 14. How God is naturally inclined to generate beings similar to himself. Luisa, the one who generates the kingdom of the divine will in others. As I was in my usual state, my sweet Jesus carried me outside of myself, up into the womb of the Eternal One. But while I was swimming in that womb, and I'm unable to say what I felt and what I understood, because I lack the words to express myself, my always lovable Jesus told me, beloved daughter of our will, I have brought you into the womb of our divinity, so that your will may extend more within ours and may participate in our way of acting. Our divinity is naturally inclined to generate. It does nothing but generate continuously, and all things created by us carry with them the virtue of generating. The sun generates light in each human eye, in each work and step. It seems that it multiplies for each man, for each plant, and for each point of the earth. If it did not have this virtue, this connection with its creator who generates, by no means could the sun give life to all and be at everyone's disposal. The flower generates another flower, fully similar to itself. The seed generates another seed. Man generates another man. All carry within them the virtue of generating from their creator. So we are so very naturally inclined to generate and to reproduce from ourselves beings similar to ourselves. This is why I have called you into our womb, so that as you live with us, your will, diffusing within ours, may expand and generate sanctity, light, love, together with us, and multiplying in everyone with us, it may generate in others that which it has received from us. This is the only thing wanted by us, which is left for us to fulfill with regard to creation, that our will act in the creature as it acts in us. Our love wants to unleash our will from our womb in order to place it in the creature, but it keeps looking for one who is disposed, who would recognize it and appreciate it, in order to generate in her what it generates in us. This is the reason for so many graces, so many manifestations about my will. It is the sanctity of my will that demands that it be known, loved, and revered before being placed in the soul, that it be able to display all its virtue and power within her, and that it be surrounded by the cortege of our own graces. So everything I do to you is nothing other than equipping and adorning the dwelling of my will. Therefore be attentive. Here in our womb you will learn our ways better, and you will receive all the prerogatives which befit the designs we have formed over you. End of the reading. The 14th of July, 1923, volume 15. Expectation of a new era, the surest sign that it is near. As I was in my usual state, my good Jesus came, but all afflicted. It seemed to me that he would not detach from me, and all goodness told me, my daughter, I have come to make you suffer. Don't you remember when I wanted to chastise man and you did not want me to, wanting to suffer yourself in their place? And in order to make you content, I told you that instead of doing 10 for love of you, I would do 5. Now, the nations want to fight against one another, and those which believe themselves to be the most powerful are taking up arms to their teeth in order to destroy the weak nations. This is about total destruction, my daughter. This is why I have come to make you suffer, to give you that 5 which I promised you. My justice will give to fire and water the power of the office which they contain, in order to destroy peoples and entire cities. Therefore, a little bit of your suffering is necessary in order to reduce the chastisements by half. Now, while he was saying this, he moved in my interior, as though holding many instruments in his hands. And as he moved them, sufferings and pains were formed, with such tearing of all my members that I don't know how I remained alive. And when he would see me moaning and shivering because of the intensity of the pains, with the air of one who has triumphed over everything, Jesus would say to me, "You are my life. With my life I can do whatever I want." And he would continue his crafting to make me suffer. May everything be for the glory of God, for the good of my soul, and for the salvation of all. Then afterwards he added, my daughter, the whole world is upside down, and everyone is awaiting changes, peace, new things. They themselves gather to discuss about it and are surprised at not being able to conclude anything and to come to serious decisions. So true peace does not arise, and everything resolves into words but no facts. And they hope that more conferences may serve to make serious decisions, but they wait in vain. In the meantime, in this waiting, they are in fear, and some prepare themselves for new wars. Some hope for new conquests. But with this, the peoples are impoverished, are stripped alive. And while they are waiting, tired of the sad present era, dark and bloody, which enwraps them, they wait and hope for a new era of peace and of light. The world is exactly at the same point as it was when I was about to come upon earth. All were awaiting a great event, a new era, as indeed occurred. The same now, since the great event, the new era in which the will of God may be done on earth as it is in heaven, is coming. Everyone is awaiting this new era, tired of the present one, but without knowing what this new thing, this change is about, just as they did not know it when I came upon earth. This expectation is a sure sign that the hour is near, but the surest sign is that I am manifesting what I want to do, and that turning to a soul, just as I turned to my mamma in descending from heaven to earth, I communicate to her my will and the goods and effects it contains to make of them a gift for the whole of humanity. End of the reading. The 14th of July, 1926, volume 19. How Jesus kept the kingdom of his will prepared in his humanity to give it back to creatures. All divine and human interests are in danger if one does not live in the divine will. I continued my usual fusions in the holy will. Many times my sweet Jesus accompanies me in the repetition of these acts. Other times he stays there to see whether anything escapes me of all that he has done, both in creation and in redemption, and all goodness he makes it present to me, that I may place even just one little I love you, one thank you, one adoration, telling me that it is necessary to recognize to what point his will has extended the boundaries of the kingdom of his volition for love of the creature, that she may go around in this kingdom to enjoy it, and through her love, her possession of it may become more stable. And seeing her always in it, everyone, heaven and earth, may recognize that the kingdom of his will has now delivered its heiress, who loves it and is happy to possess it. Now, while I was feeling sunken in this eternal volition, my always lovable Jesus made himself seen with his heart open. And at each heartbeat of his, a ray of light came out, at the tip of which one could see a fiat impressed. And since the beating of the heart is continuous, as one ray would come out, another would follow, and then another. They never stopped coming out. These rays invaded heaven and earth, but all of them carried the fiat impressed on them. And not only his heart, but as he looked, rays would come out of his eyes. As he spoke, as he moved his hands and feet, rays would come out, all of them carrying the supreme fiat as glory and triumph. It was an enchantment to see Jesus, beautiful, all transfused in these rays of light that came out of his adorable person. But what gave him sumptuousness, majesty, magnificence, glory, beauty, was the fiat. Its light eclipsed me, and I would have stayed there for centuries before Jesus without saying anything to him, if he himself had not broken silence, telling me, "My daughter, the perfect glory and the complete honor were given to my will by my humanity. It was precisely in my interior, in the center of this heart, that I formed the kingdom of the supreme will. And since man had lost it and there was no hope that he might be able to acquire it, my humanity reacquired it through intimate and unheard of pains, giving it all the honors due to it and the glory that the creature took away from it, so as to give it back to the creature. So the kingdom of my will was formed inside my humanity. Therefore, everything that was formed in my humanity and came out of it carried the mark of the fiat. Each one of my thoughts, gazes, breaths, heartbeats, each drop of my blood, everything carried the seal of the fiat of my supreme kingdom. This gave me so much glory and embellished me so much that heaven and earth remained below and as though obscured before me, because my divine will is superior to everything and puts everything under itself as its footstool. Now, in the round of the centuries, I looked for one to whom to entrust this kingdom, and I have been like a pregnant mother who agonizes, who suffers because she wants to deliver her baby, but cannot do it. Poor mother, how much she suffers, for she cannot enjoy the fruit of her womb. More so since the existence of this birth, which is mature and does not come out, is always in danger. More than pregnant mother have I been for so many centuries. How much I have suffered, how I have agonized in seeing the interests of my glory in danger, both of creation and of redemption. More so since I kept this kingdom as though in secret and hidden in my heart, without even the outlet of manifesting it. And this made me agonize even more, because not seeing in the creatures the true dispositions, that I might give this birth from myself, and since they had not taken all the goods contained in the kingdom of redemption, I could not venture to give them the kingdom of my will, which contains greater goods. More so, since the goods of redemption will serve as provision as antidote, so that on entering the kingdom of my will, they might not repeat a second fall like that of Adam. So, if not all of these goods had been taken, on the contrary, they have been tampered with and trampled upon, how could this birth, my kingdom, come out from within my humanity? Therefore, I contented myself with agonizing, suffering, waiting more than a mother, so as not to expose this dear birth from myself, my kingdom, to any danger. And so while agonizing, for I wanted to deliver of it, to give it to the creature as a gift, and to secure the interest of creation and redemption, which were all in danger. In fact, until man returns into the kingdom of the supreme will, our interests and his will always be in danger, because outside of our will, man is always a disorder in our creative work. He is a clashing note that takes the perfect harmony away from the sanctity of our goods. I looked at the round of centuries, waiting for my little newborn in the kingdom of my will, placing around her all the goods of redemption for the safety of the kingdom of my will. And more than a suffering mother who has agonized for so long, I entrust to you this birth from myself and the destiny of this my kingdom. And it is not only my humanity that wants to deliver of this birth that cost me so much, but the whole creation is pregnant with my will and agonizes because it wants to deliver of it for the creatures. Therefore, creation is like a veil that hides my will, which is like a birth within it. But creatures take the veil and reject the birth present inside of it. The kingdom of my will is the sun. But while they take the effects of the sun, which like veil contains my will and the goods it produces, they reject my will. They do not recognize it, nor do they let themselves be dominated by it. So they take the natural goods present in the sun, but reject the goods of the soul, the kingdom of my will that reigns in the sun, and wants to give itself to them. Oh, how my will agonizes in the sun, wanting to give birth from the height of its sphere in order to reign in the midst of creatures. The kingdom of my will is the sky, looking at the creatures with its eyes of light, which are the stars, to see if they want to receive it, so that it may reign in their midst. The kingdom of my will is the sea. It makes itself heard with its roaring waves, and its waters hide it like a veil. But man makes use of the sea. He takes its fish, but does not bother about my will, and causes it to agonize, like a birth constrained in the womb of the waters. So all the elements are pregnant with my will. The wind, the fire, the flower, the whole earth, they are all veils that conceal it. Now, who will give this outlet and relief to my humanity? Who will break these veils of so many created things that conceal it? Who will recognize in all things the bearers of my will and paying the honours due to it? Will let it reign in her soul, giving it dominion and her subjection? Therefore, my daughter, be attentive. Give this contentment to your Jesus, who has agonized so much until now, to release this birth of my supreme kingdom. And together with me, the whole creation, as a single act, will break the veils and will deposit in you the birth of my will that all things conceal. End of the reading.
All to Jesus I surrender, all to Him I freely give. I will ever love and trust Him in His
14th of July 1928, Volume 24. How one who lives in the divine will forms her little seas within God himself. How the divine will is light and it looks for light, and how all evils become lost before its light. Prodigy of the fiat. I feel myself completely in the divine fiat, and my adorable Jesus showed before my mind. an interminable sea of light. And within this sea, one could see many other little seas, little rivers, formed in the same sea. It was beautiful, delightful, enchanting to see these little seas formed very often within the divine sea, some smaller, some a little larger. It seemed to me as when possibly we are in the sea, and as we dive into it, the water divides, and forming a circle around us, it gives us the place in order to be able to stay in the sea in such a way that one can see many people in it who are not seas, because the sea does not have the virtue of converting us into water, while our God has the virtue of converting us into his very light. And in spite of this, one can see that a human will has gone to dive into the divine sea to take its place in it. And according to its much or little operating, it forms a small or larger little sea within the divine sea. Now, while I was delighting in watching a scene so beautiful and enrapturing, my sweet Jesus told me, "My daughter, these little seas and rivers that you see in the eternal sea of the divine majesty are of those who operate in the divine will. The Creator gives and forms the place within his own sea for those who want to live in the fiat. He admits them into his house and lets them form their own properties. And while forming their own, they enjoy all the goods of the interminable sea of the Supreme Being, who gives wide freedom to these children of his to expand their own little seas within his very sea as much as they can. In this sea, there are the little seas of my humanity and those of the sovereign Queen of Heaven, and there will also be those of the ones who will live in my will. None of their acts will be done outside of this divine sea, and this will be the greatest glory of God and the greatest honour for the children of my divine fiat." After this, while being immersed more than ever in the divine volition, I was offering all my being and all my acts in it. Oh, how I wished that not even one thought, one word, one heartbeat would escape the light of the fiat. Even more, I wished to surround all the acts of creatures like a crown, lining myself up over each human act to invest everything and everyone with its light, so that one might be the word, one the heartbeat, divine will. But while my mind was wandering within it, my sweet Jesus, making himself seen, clasped me so very tightly in his arms. Then he placed his most holy face upon my heart and breathed strongly into it. I'm unable to say what I felt. And then he told me, "Daughter of my divine will, my fiat is light, nor could even a shadow or atom that is not light enter into it. Darkness does not find the way, it becomes lost before its endless light, and the soul, in order to enter my divine will, must place herself in the reflections of its light. That is to say, as she wants to do her acts in my will, she places herself in its reflections that have the virtue of changing the acts of the soul into light. And my will performs a prodigy as each of its rays invests some her heartbeat, some her thoughts, some her words. In each of its rays it contains the crown of all the acts of the creature. And since my fiat embraces everything and everyone, heaven and earth, it makes everyone touch and gives to everyone all the acts of the creature done in it. If all could see the marvels of the living and operating in my will, they would see the most beautiful, enchanting, and enrapturing scene that does the greatest good and brings the kiss of life, of light, of glory." Then with tender and moving voice and with a stronger emphasis of love, he added, "O divine will, how powerful you are. You alone are the transformer of the creature in God. O my will, you alone are the consumer of all evils and the producer of all goods. O my will, you alone possess the enrapturing strength, and whoever lets herself be enraptured by you becomes light. Whoever lets herself be dominated by you is the most fortunate one in heaven and on earth, She is the most loved by God. She is the one who receives everything and gives everything. End of the reading. The 14th of July, 1929, Volume 26. How the divine will wants absolute freedom in order to form its life. Different ways of acting of our Lord. My usual abandonment in the supreme fiat continues. I feel that it leaves me not a free minute. It wants everything for itself in a way that is ruling, but sweet and strong at the same time. It is so attractive that the soul would herself let it put its sweet chains on her, so as not to oppose even slightly what the divine volition will want to do over her and within her. So while I was thinking about this, my lovable Jesus, moving in my interior, told me, my daughter, do not be surprised if my divine will does not leave you free in anything, because it does not want to form simple acts and works, but life. And to one who must form a life, continuous acts are needed. And if the continuous act ceases, the life cannot grow, nor be formed, nor have its true existence. And so this is why my divine will, wanting to form its divine life in you, wants to be free. It wants absolute freedom, and with its incessant act that it possesses by nature, it pours itself over the creature, and extending with its more than maternal wings of light, it invests each fibre of the heart, each heartbeat, breath, thought, word, work, and step. It warms it, and with its kiss of light, it impresses its life in each act of the creature. And while destroying the human life, it constitutes its very self as divine life within her. And since nothing but tenebrous acts can come out of the human will, my will does not want to mix with it, and therefore it stands at attention to be able to form its life, all of light, in one who freely has given it freedom to let it reign. Therefore its attitude is admirable. It is all eyes, so that nothing may escape it. With unspeakable love, in order to see its life formed in the creature, it makes itself heartbeat for each heartbeat, breath for each breath, work for each work, step for each step. Even over the little trifles of the creature, it runs, it extends, it places the power of its fiat and creates its vital act in them. Therefore, be attentive in receiving its continuous act, because this is about life, and life has need of breath, of continuous heartbeat, and of daily nourishment. Works are done and are put aside, nor do they need to be always kept in hand in order to be works, but life cannot be put aside. If the continuous act ceases, it dies. Therefore, the continuous act of my will is necessary for you in receiving it, and my will in giving it to you, so that its life in you may live, be formed, and grow with its divine fullness. After this, I was feeling oppressed in thinking about my poor existence, especially the state I find myself in. How many changes I had to go through, even on the part of our Lord. But while I was thinking of this and other things that it is not necessary to say on paper, my sweet Jesus, making himself seen in my interior, told me, my daughter, my love for you has been exuberant, and in order to lead you there where my divine will wanted you, I had to have different ways of acting in the periods of your life. In the first period, my love and my acting toward you was so tender, sweet, and gentle, and so jealous that I wanted to do everything by myself in your soul, and I wanted no one else, and that anyone might know what I was doing in you and saying to you. My jealousy was so great that I put you in the impotence of opening yourself with anyone, not even with your confessor. I wanted to be alone, free in my work, and I wanted no one else to meddle in it or be able to scrutinize what I was doing. I cared so much about this first period of your life, about my being with you one-on-one, that I can say that my love used all the divine weapons And waging war on you, I assailed you in every way, so that you would not be able to resist. All this was necessary to my love, because knowing what it wanted to do with you, no less than restoring the creation, giving my divine will the rights to reign, making the new era arise in the midst of the human family, it used all arts and stratagems in order to obtain the intent. Now, after I became sure about you and I secured my work, my acting changed. I made you break the silence, and the ardour of my instructions, of my speaking, was such and so great that I can tell you, the cathedra of my divine will, the secretary of its most intimate secrets, such that as you were unable to contain them all within yourself, I commanded you to manifest them to my minister, and this acting of mine was necessary. Otherwise, how would my divine will have become known? Now, my daughter, in this last period of your life, you feel another way of acting of mine. Do not be concerned, let me do, and I will know how to give my work the last code. Courage, then, you have the divine will in your power. What do you fear? Therefore, always forward in my will. End of the reading. The 14th of July, 1932, Volume 30. Celestial Atmosphere. Jesus guarding the act of the creature, work of one and of the other. How the acts done in the divine will guard and embrace the centuries, and are the centuries and sentinels of the creatures. I'm always occupied with and in the divine volition. In it there is always work to do, but it is not a work that tires, no. Rather, it gives strength, it makes the divine life grow, and inundates one with joy, with peace. One feels a celestial atmosphere inside and out. But while I was swimming in the eternal waves of the divine volition, my highest good, Jesus, visiting my little soul, told me, Blessed daughter, it is I who form the celestial atmosphere inside and outside the creature. In fact, as soon as she enters into my divine volition, I place myself as guard of the act that she is doing, and she forms the soil with her acts, and I form the divine seed to cast it into the act of the creature. So her acts serve as soil, and I, celestial farmer, by filling her with my seeds, use this in order to reap the harvest of the works that are done in my will. Do you see then what the continuation of the acts done in my divine will is for? It serves to give me the work and the occasion never to leave the creature, because she always gives me something to do. And I do not want nor can I leave a soil so precious, formed in my will and exposed to the vivifying rays of the divine sun, empty. Therefore, it calls you to work in my volition, and you call me. And oh, how sweet it is to work together in my fiat. It is a work that does not tire. On the contrary, it is a bearer of rest and of the most beautiful conquests. Then he added, My daughter, you must know that our acts, which we do in the creature, contain 3 acts in one: the preserving act, the nourishing act, and the first creative act. With these 3 acts in one, we give perennial life to our acts, and the creature who possesses them feels within herself the creative power, which removes from her all the weaknesses of the human nature. The nourishing one keeps her always occupied, giving her its food to prevent her from taking any other food, and preserves her from all evils. This nourishment is like the embalming that prevents corruption, and the preserving act strengthens and keeps the good pure and beautiful. These, our 3 acts in one, are like impregnable fortresses that we give to the creature who lets our divine will reign in her, which render her so fortified that no one can harm her. After this, my little mind continued my round in the divine will, searching for its acts in order to enclose my acts within its own and make them one. And this is all the contentment of my long exile, to be able to operate together with the supreme volition, to make my acts disappear in its own. I feel I take heaven as though in my power. I feel the eternal beatitudes flow in them in such a way that I feel neither distant nor estranged from my dear celestial fatherland. So while my mind was as though crowded by thoughts on the divine will, my highest good Jesus, repeating his short little visit, told me, "My little daughter of my will, I want you to know that for each one of your acts in it, you are regenerated and grow as many times in a completely new way in our fiat. So you feel heaven. And the Supreme Being has the great contentment of regenerating in the act of the creature. To form our life in her act is our feast, our longing. We unite all our stratagems of love and receive the complete glory that the creature can give us. Now you must know that sacrifice with powerful voice calls God, and doing our will makes him descend into the soul to let him operate as the God he is. And my love, even though I try to always operate in your volition, and I pray and pray that its kingdom come upon earth, nothing is seen yet." And Jesus, "Good daughter, this says nothing. In fact, you must know that the prayers, the acts done in our volition, because they enter our divine act, have such power that they must bring to the creatures the good they contain. They place themselves as guards of the centuries, and they guard them with so much love, and with unconquered patience they wait and wait, and with the light that they possess, they knock at the hearts, they make themselves light for the minds, and without ever tiring, because they are not subject either to tiredness or to diminution of power, they act as sentries, as faithful sentinels, who do not leave other than when they have given the good that they possess. These acts are the possessors of my volition, and in an absolute way they want to give it to creatures. And if one escapes them, they take aim at another. If one sentry does not receive them, they do not stop, nor do they depart, because we have given them the centuries in their power, and they form and will form our divine army in the midst of the human generations to form the kingdom of our will. In these acts, there is the human crowned with divine power, and they give to creatures the right to possess such a kingdom. There is our will operating in these acts, and it gives God the right to reign and dominate the creature with our omnipotent fiat. They are like the down payment and capital that pay God on behalf of creatures and have the right to give what they have paid for to the human generations. And like sun that does not withdraw or ever tire, the beating on the earth with its light to give the goods it possesses, so do they, more than suns, go around through each heart. They go around the centuries. They are always in motion, nor do they ever give up until they have given my operating will, which they possess. More so since they know with certainty that they will obtain their intent and victory. Therefore, if you see nothing, do not be concerned. You continue your life and your acts in my will. This is more necessary than anything, to form the currency in order to pay for a kingdom so holy on behalf of your brothers. And besides, you must know that my very life spent on earth and my own acts find themselves in the same condition. I paid up for all of my life, and what I did is at everyone's disposal and want to give themselves in order to give the good they possess. And although I departed for heaven, I left and I stayed to go around the hearts, the centuries, so as to give to all the good of my redemption. It has been about 20 centuries, and my life and my acts continue to go round, but not all of them have been taken by creatures. So much so that various regions still do not know me. So my life, the fullness of my goods and my acts do not withdraw. They run and go around always. They embrace the centuries as though one, to give to all the good that they possess. Therefore, it is necessary to do, to pay, to form the capital. The rest will come by itself. So be attentive and let your flight in my fiat be continuous. End of the reading. The 14th of July, 1935, Volume 33. Certainty of the kingdom of the divine will on earth. Impetuous wind, in order to purify the generations. The Queen of Heaven placed at the head of this kingdom. My mind is always returning into the interminable sea of the divine volition, that as it murmurs, it smiles with love at the creature, and it wants her smiles of love. It does not want that she remain behind it, and is not given tit for tat. Not to do what the divine will does while living, and it is almost impossible. But who can say what the creature feels in this divine sea? The purity of its kisses, its chaste embraces that infuse celestial peace, divine life, strength such as to conquer God himself. Oh, how I would love that everyone would experience that they would come to live in this sea. Certainly they would never come out of it again. But while I thought of this, I said to myself, but who knows who will see when this kingdom of the divine fiat will come? Oh, how difficult it seems. And my beloved Jesus, making me his brief little visit, told me, my daughter, and yet it will come. You measure the human, the sad times that involve the present generations, and therefore it seems difficult to you. But the Supreme Being has divine measures that are so very long, such that what is impossible for human nature is easy for us. We should not act other than an impetuous wind that will be so strong that they will be carried by the currents of the wind that will purify the unhealthy air of the human will. Of all the sad things of these times, it will make a heap of them, and it will scatter them like dust invested by an impetuous wind. Our wind will be so strong, impetuous, and ruling that it will not prove easy to resist it, even more because its waves will be crammed with graces, with light, with love, that will drown the human generations, and they will feel themselves transformed. How many times does a strong wind not sweep away an entire city and transport men, trees, earth, water to other places and perhaps even far away without anyone being able to oppose it? Oh, even more, our divine wind, wanted, decreed by us with our Creator's strength. And then there is the Queen of Heaven, who with her empire continuously prays that the kingdom of the divine will come on earth. And when have we ever denied her anything? For us, her prayers are impetuous winds, such that we cannot resist her. And the same strength that she possesses of our will is for us empire, command. She has all rights to impetrate it, because she possessed it on earth and she possesses it in heaven. Therefore, as possessor, she can give what is hers, so much so that this kingdom will be called the kingdom of the celestial empress. She will act as queen in the midst of her children on earth. She will place at their disposition her graces, her seas of graces, of sanctity, of power. She will put to flight all the enemies. She'll raise them in her womb. She'll hide them in her light, covering them with her love, nourishing them with her own hands with the food of the divine will. What will this mother and queen not do in the midst of this, her kingdom, for her children, for her people? She will give unheard of graces, surprises never seen, miracles that will shake heaven and earth. We give her the whole field free, so that she will form for us the kingdom of our will on earth. She will be the guide, the true model, will also be the kingdom of the celestial sovereign. Therefore, you also pray together with her, and at its time you will obtain the intent. End of the reading. There are no more readings today.